Welcome back to today's episode. We're talking about Bargain on Paramount Plus. It's a new Korean drama horror. And first, I wanted to talk to you about Battle Royale, actually. That movie that came out in 2000 gained a global cult following, established a genre of violence and kind of a competitive spirit where you had a bunch of younger age kids who ended up on an island killing each other off, right?
Quentin Tarantino said that he wished that he made that film.
Why does he wish he made that film?
I think it's his favorite one.
I don't think he could have because most of the actors that he casts are older. And I just don't think it would have the same impact if I saw Samuel L. Jackson running around playing a 16-year-old trying to kill... what's his name? Is John Travolta or something?
When the Hunger Games came over in 2012, I remember so many people were mad about it because they felt like it was just a ripoff of Battle Royale.
But Battle Royale itself has become a genre, like the Battle Royale comics, manga, shows, video games. You say that it's not really stealing at this point. It's just what it is. Squid Game, more recently, you have similar violence. You have that competitive, desperate survival horror. Also a lot of capitalist elements.
Yep.
And then also in Parasite, they also have capitalist elements in Korean shows and dramas. Is that brought into here? Because from what I've heard, it is.
Yeah, but there's no real, survival game. When you were talking about Squid Game or Battle Royale, there's no type of game there.
Okay, so this is the interesting thing. You watched the pilot, you contacted me, and you said, this show, are you sure you want to do it? Because it seems to be focused primarily on human trafficking. Just girls giving up their virginity, right?
Yeah, the first 15 minutes.
Park Joo-young offers to sell her virginity to an older man, so they meet at a hotel. And for how long does it go?
I would say the first half of the episode.
So the first half of the episode, the 15 minutes, it's kind of like Chris Hansen to Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
Do you get the sense that she is playing him?
First, I thought that she was just a prostitute because she's in this dingy motel, and then Hyung-soo shows up, and he's in funeral attire.
And he's just this old man?
Yeah, he's I want to say in his early or mid 40s.
And what, they met online, or they were texting, or what connection did they have?
You don't know? It was either a dating app or it was on the internet. They met somehow.
Dating app makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Joo-young is she's 18 years old. She's a junior in high school, but I guess that would be old enough to be on a dating app. And she's selling her virginity. Mm-hmm. And that's really where the first 5 minutes, Hyung-soo is just talking about how excited he is that he's going to be able to take it.
But, okay. But how much is he going to pay for this?
$1,000 is what they agreed on. But when it gets later on into the episode, Hyung-soo starts to become suspicious because this is why it was so gross in the first 15 minutes. He's saying how he wants to see blood. Yeah. And then
literally, in one of the reviews I read, they were talking about that, and then they were like, because he wants to prove it by seeing blood, ew. So
yeah, I mean, then Joo-young is talking about how that's not going to be the case because how a gym teacher molested her when she was younger, so her cherry was already popped. And then he starts to see that she actually isn't in high school because he's trying to kind of get background because he starts to get suspicious and she's not answering her questions correctly. And then they finally just agree once he's lowered the price. He's like, you know what, I'll still have sex, but I'll only do it for $70. And then she was like, fine. And then he decides to take a shower and but
before?
Yes, beforehand.
Oh, okay.
And when he takes a shower, that's when I paused it and I came to you and I was like, this just seems like such a disgusting show. I don't really know why Paramount
they're
Plus...
all villains. That's kind of what and so the setup, I can see how that's disturbing and also disgusting. But one of the things about selling your virginity, I remember a few years ago, every once in a while there would be a pop-up article about people who would actually try to do that.
That's a thing.
Back in the early 2000s, people used to try to do that on eBay. And they used to be scams or hoaxes. Remember the Lonely Girl 15, how that ended up being fake?
Yes. Yeah.
And that was kind of just actors doing a thing. Even before that, they did something similar where there were these two, a guy and a girl who were pretending to be 18 and trying to sell their virginity. And then it came out later on that they were just actors. And then since then, if you go to Wikipedia and stuff, they have a whole section that's listed of all these false cases. And then some of them that they can't confirm. But yeah, don't you remember there was a girl a few years ago that was going to give to charity a bunch of money that was like 18 years old, and she was trying to sell her virginity online, and it would rack up to something like $14 million, but then they would never like go through with it.
Well, we see that this is a continual scam that she does, because after the 15 minutes, when Hyung-soo goes into the shower, she leaves the room, which is the first time that we see anything other than just
this is the To Catch a Predator part to me, because I remember in that you always have Chris Hansen then walks in, so it would be really funny if they had just another guy, right?
But I mean, unless South Korean laws are different, she's of age, right? She's 18 years old.
Yeah, but prostitution's still illegal in most places.
Okay.
So you kind of get the sense that both of these characters are trash people.
Yes, there's no one to root for in this show.
And so when she goes out and leaves him alone, what are you expecting to happen?
He made the joke about her leaving when he takes a shower, and she's like, no, I won't do that. So when he took a shower and she left, I was thinking that she was at some point going to come back into the room, which I think was like room 506.
566 or something?
Yeah. And instead she's making a phone call, and we see her doing the scam to another person saying, come late at night because I'm not sure if I want you. Like, this is the only time I'm going to be comfortable losing my virginity to you. She's speaking to some other guy on the phone.
Oh, so she's like looping in multiple people at the same time.
This is something that she has done a lot.
She's like a telemarketer.
Shortly afterwards, this is when it turns shocking, because there's a big twist. She goes into a room, and there's a ton of girls that are just inside. I thought it was a brothel at first. And it's all being run by the person who at least says in the episode that he owns the hotel, Huey Suk, who's the boss of Park Joo-young. And what they do is it just turned into Hostel. It was almost exactly like the movie Hostel, where these girls, they seduce these men into coming to the hotel.
They lure them to the hotel.
Yes. At some point, they get knocked out.
And they drug them, right? That's what you're led to believe, is that they drug them, and then when that person wakes up,
they're strapped to a board, and then this is where the capitalist theme comes.
Are they naked, right, when they're strapped to the board?
I think that
I only ask
Hyung-soo is wearing underwear.
Yeah, that's what I mean though, is that they because they want to show the people who are there. There's an auction going on.
Yes, there's an auction for the highest bidder for body parts.
And so they would want to show their, at least their torso.
Yes.
So that you can see that they're at least somewhat healthy.
By the last 10 minutes, not only do they just show it so that they're healthy, but they also draw markers to be
so how
we're going
she
to
knock
give away
this guy out, though?
We don't see how Hyung-soo is knocked out. We just see him when she walks into a room strapped to a board, and his eyes are, he has something over his eyes.
A blindfold?
Yeah, he has a towel in his mouth.
Yeah.
And he can't speak even though he's trying to scream. And then, there's a ton of people, I would say maybe 10 to 15, who are just going to be auctioning off his organs. And you see that she's drawing a marker being like, this is the kidney that we're going to start off auctioning, and
so you're set up to feel bad for the guy who is about to take advantage of a girl who's 18 years old.
So this is the thing. I don't even feel really that bad about him, because we learn more things when he's strapped to the board, like how he was a detective at one point. And it's almost like, if you're a detective and you're still going to be doing things like that, yes,
you're
it's
taking
terrible
advantage
what's happening to him.
On top of just the fact that she's younger, but also your superiority or your job position, because you're supposed to be an official and you're supposed to be held to a higher degree of responsibility.
And that's why you don't go for anyone. Even there's this son who is trying to use his life savings to auction and try and buy part of or get Hyung-soo's kidney.
Oh, you're talking about good son? Yuk Ryul, right?
Yeah.
And in all the articles that had mentioned him, they're always just good son. Right?
Yes. And I thought that it was kind of clever how, even though Yuk, they're trying to say he's kind of a good guy because he's doing this for his father, but also he's saying that he's going to pay $120,000 so they can rip this guy open and give him his kidney.
And he's very emphatic about it, yeah?
Yes, so that's why I was like, okay, this show, really, when you think about it, is clever. However, you have to also, like, suspension of disbelief, it can be entirely broken. If you don't believe one thing that's going on, you're not going to be able to get through anything. Because if you really think about it, if this were to actually happen, it would be shut down, like, immediately.
Only if they found out.
Yes, but
I'm assuming the people that they're taking the organs from, for the most part, die, or just like dispatched.
Yes.
Because it's not just one kidney they're taking. They're probably
they're
taking
going
both
to be
kidneys
taking everything.
And the heart and all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's almost like Hotel Artemis, where whatever happens there stays there.
Hotel Artemis, though, dealt with villains. Like, it was almost like the Continental.
Yeah, and is this not a bunch of just villains?
We only see one floor of the hotel.
The way this show's been described is as unhinged.
Absolutely.
Preposterous. So when you talk about suspension of disbelief, preposterous, bonkers, claustrophobic.
Just a ton of craziness. Claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic because I think everybody's in the auction room is in one tiny room.
Yes,
right?
they're in one room,
and
but
then,
the full series takes place, at least for the first episode, on one floor.
Yes.
So I can see where the claustrophobia is coming in. Yeah.
Well, yes, because they're stuck in a hotel, and we'll get to that in a second. And then also gutsy, which I found is a funny word to talk about.
Gutsy, as in like
in your guts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's hitting the nail on the head. So then at the very end, though, if the first twist wasn't good enough, you also have one more, right?
Yes, so this is what made me think it was going to be an anthology series, because afterwards they started talking...
Like that you wouldn't see these characters again?
Yeah, they start talking about capital services, like that's something that the show does, so they will give out loans to cover the cost of the organs, because, for example, Gook, even though he says that he's going to pay $120,000, he doesn't have the money, and they will give out loans to cover the cost of organs if people don't have enough money. But if they can't pay it back in a certain time,
like a mafia thing,
the buyer will have to pay with their organs.
It makes sense.
Yes, and so Gook ends up winning out. He's going to win the kidney, and at the very end of the episode, the whole room comes crashing down.
Well, there's an earthquake.
It's hinted at it with, like, in the last 5 minutes that something's going on, because even Huey Sook, as this room violently shakes, comes in and says it was just something because there's some tunnel reconstruction that's going on down beneath.
So they felt the vibrations, they felt the shaking, they all ignored it, and then suddenly at the very end, everything collapses.
Every single one of them was like, this is an earthquake, we don't believe there's tunnel reconstruction, and yes, the last minute...
Okay, so this is a money-making, like, thing, where the guy made the judgment that, like, if everybody thinks it's an earthquake, they might leave the hotel or the motel, and I won't get anything out of it. So I have to lie right now.
He was the boss that Ju Young went to, and I couldn't tell if he was lying or not when he said that he owned the hotel, because I guess it would make sense if he owned it that this whole operation would be able to take place. But he does say that to the people, and then everyone's so happy, and then this
are they on a high floor?
I would think so, because we see in the second episode, the first 10 minutes that I watched, people jump or go through the hole, and it's multiple floors.
Yeah, so you only watched the second episode a little bit, because I felt like where the first one ended off, we're still only strictly talking about the pilot.
Yes.
But where it ends off, it kind of misleads you into thinking the show is something different than what it is.
I thought it was done. I thought that the first episode, if they had never gone back to that story, I thought, like I said, it was an anthology series.
I don't think it's giving too much away to say that they do wake up in the second episode. You're following the same characters. It still maintains the location or setting of the hotel.
And the same camera work, because the first episode, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, is all one shot. And at least
seems like one shot, yes.
From the second episode that I saw, it seems like it's still going to be that way. So it might be that way for the entire series.
It is. But the thing about the survival aspect of it is it stops being about the auction, it stops being about human trafficking, it stops being about prostitution, and it starts being about the survivors of this collapse.
You can see that in the second episode, because Ju Young, she is thrown through the hole once it turns out that she is speaking to this person called the director on a walkie-talkie, and says that Huey Sook, the boss, is dead, even though the boss isn't dead. And then when Huey Sook is kind of figuring out that Ju Young might try to kill her, there's this giant hole in the ground, and he throws her through it, and then she is able to survive the fall because she lands in water. But you see,
but that's the same hole that the first guy fell into,
yes,
right? All right.
And I'm not sure, but I feel like Hyung-soo might be dead because he was still strapped to a board. He still had a blindfold on, and you see just the thing that he's strapped to fall through the hole, and it's not like he's going to be able to use his arms to get out of the water.
Well, because that's the second episode, I'm not going to say anything else about it. Bringing it back to the first, though, I just want to ask, does it adjust your rating or your thoughts on the show having seen the first 10 minutes of the second one?
It adjusted my ratings a little bit because when I saw we were dealing with the same characters, I actually gave the show more credit. I put a 0.5 on it. I meant
plot-wise, though, because it's like clearly the show is going to go away from that whole, what you were so concerned about at the beginning, which was the concentration on just this young girl having sex with this old man.
This is a lot like Cabin in the Woods, where the start to that movie and then where they end is just entirely different. It's all not even like comparable.
35 minutes, so... If that's going to the show's credit, what is your ultimate rating for this?
I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I was going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 just because the fact that it is one shot and the twist, I think were good enough to make it pass. However, it just felt like a complete ripoff of Hostel once we got the twist. And when I thought it was an anthology series, I was like, it really isn't all that shocking. But since we're dealing with the same characters, I want to put 0.5 onto that rating because I'm like, oh, okay, this might actually be a bit better. It's not just kind of a lazy thing where they all die at the end.
It does have a 6.6 on IMDb, but I was not able to find a bad review. It has like an 80-something on Metacritic. Guardian, Times, Hollywood Reporter, the New York Times, by the way, all like really liked it and made the comparison to the Squid Game thing, saying it's not going to pull in the same crowd that Squid Game did, but it's clearly showing how everybody, all the industry is trying to respond to Netflix for having the keyhole on that. Because, for instance, Paramount Plus, which is the one who brought this over, entered in to the market last year with the launch of TV-ing, which is
they show that at the beginning.
Korean network, part of a strategic global partnership between CJENM, which is, again, the Korean corporation, with Paramount Global. And they have a bunch of different shows that are in the works that they brought over that have either been made in the past or that are being made now. And I have 4 real shows here, one of which isn't an actual South Korean show, but based on just the plot of this, I think you can get the sense that they're wonky, they're weird, they can be very dark. So I just want to see...
But funny. Like, the first episode is funny. When you see the room just collapse and everyone die, especially after they were auctioning off a human body, it's hard not to laugh at that.
Yeah, you're laughing, but not... It's not like a straight-up joke. It's like Parasite. It's like The Platform, where there's just this huge injustice and pain that's going on for people. Yep. But because, particularly in this, they're all villains... Like, it was really easy for me to root for Zia in Creature, the Frankenstein show. But one of the articles pointed out how, like, with Squid Game, you were able to root for the main character.
Yes.
In Bargain, there's no real character to root for.
Yeah, like, even when you see Ju Young survive the fall in the second episode, you're still not really going for her. You're just kind of watching the character. However, Ju Young, I do want to say the actress does a good job. I listened not to the dub version, to the original version, which I think is how you should always watch a show. And she has to carry the whole... I think she's in every scene so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's one shot, then it's hard for her not to be. But yeah, she's Tokyo from the Korean Money Heist.
I would not have put that together.
Neither would I until I looked it up. So getting back to the shows here, we've got 4. 3 of them are either on Paramount Plus or coming to Paramount Plus, one of which isn't even a South Korean show. Signal, we have a magic walkie-talkie. Think Cold Case with a magic walkie-talkie, where they used magic walkie-talkie to talk to people in the past. All right, Pyramid Game.
That's just the plot of Frequency, right?
It's similar, but like this is what they use it to solve crimes.
Okay, yeah,
and then later on, I think in the show, because these are all real, so this isn't giving anything away. I think they end up messing with time too much, and then they start changing it.
Oh,
so
okay.
It is like
the butterfly effect.
Yes, Pyramid Game. A brutal ranking system that determines the entire social hierarchy of a school. That's what goes on at this one school. But after starting at the bottom, this bullied new transferred student named Soo Ji has to make her way to the top of the pyramid. So I think she has to either like kill people or like it's not as innocent as it might sound.
Okay.
Yes. All right. The next one's called A Bloody Lucky Day, which is about an ordinary taxi driver, O-Take, who accepts a fare to Mokpo by a passenger who offers to pay a high price, only to find out that the man in the back seat is actually a serial killer and that's when the horror begins.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the last one?
It was actually inspired, or it has very high linking to the what's his name? Tom Cruise movie, Collateral, that came out a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Switched is a popular girl witnesses a depressed girl commit suicide only to end up in her body and have the depressed person who died in hers. So yes. So they switch places.
I'll go with Switch being not the South Korean version.
Why do you say that?
Just because the other ones, it seemed like a Pyramid Game sounds like something that would come out.
Pyramid Game
South
sounds
Korea.
like this show almost, or
yeah,
like Squid Game,
or
something
Squid
like
Game.
Uh-huh.
Signal, it might be that one, but also A Bloody Lucky Day. What was that one? The taxi driver one.
Yes.
That does sound like South Korean horror as well. So that's why I'm going with Switch.
Well, you're right. Switched, I think it's a Japanese show.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's because I was thinking Battle Royale, also Japanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
The genres can mix, especially with horror. The person who made this bargain, it's based off a 2015 short that was like 14 minutes long, and then
they made a full
full
series
6
off
episodes
of it.
Again, only 30 to 35 minutes. It's supposed to have a lot of allegorical confrontation of the different issues in South Korea, from society, economically, capitalism run amok, social isolation. And then a lot of people who saw more of the series talked about the claustrophobic feeling because they're trapped in these like small floors, having to work their way up, and every floor that they work their way up through, kind of like you were talking about in the first episode, has a more wealthy clientele.
It's basically the platformer,
Yes.
Snowpiercer, the TV series.
Snowpiercer, but like instead of being a horizontal version, it's a vertical version.
I would also put American Horror Stories, the episode that I watched where like the end of the world ends up happening, when at the beginning it was just supposed to be, should this movie be shown, kind of the crazy lengths it goes to, and also Room 104, because there's a ton of crazy stuff that happens in all those episodes, and here it's the same thing.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the episode?
No, that's about it.
All right, well, then I'll just end it by saying that it became the first Korean drama to win the Cannes International Series Festival. So again, very highly rated. I think people will enjoy this one. Just get past that first, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That may mislead you into thinking it's a different type of show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.